you ended up being put in Lorton's central facility, aka the Hill.
Yeah, the Hill. There you go.
And at that point, you actually formed a crew called the Youth Center Mob.
Well, actually, the Youth Center Mob came from the Youth Center. That's another part of Lorton. It's in Lorton, Virginia. And it's where the guys that had youth acts, from 16 to 26. So I had already been down there. So they sent me there first to finish up my backup. And we developed that Youth Center Mob from the Youth Center, and some things happened at the Youth Center, so they shipped maybe about 20 or 30 of us out of the Youth Center to on the Hill. Now, when we got on the Hill, well, we heard stories prior to going over there how the older guys were raping some of the younger guys. For instance, certain guys that left there to go to Lorton, we would later hear that, man, such and such just got raped over there, So when they send about 19 or 20, it might have been 30 of us over there, we just hit the ground like, hey, ain't none of that happened. We protecting all of the young guys. We're going to stick together. And that's what we done. So we became the Youth Center Mob.
Got it. And I mean, was rape a thing during those times?
Oh, man, it was commonplace, man. Honestly, I mean, you could walk out your dormitory and see somebody grabbing somebody, 2 or 3 guys throwing a coat over their head, and taking them into a dorm, and you have 20 or 30 guys lined up to rape them. So it was commonplace.
An officer at the Albion Correctional Facility was arrested yesterday for raping a female inmate. 29-year-old James Caston-Guy was charged with a criminal sex act, rape, and official misconduct. There are at least 2 victims. Caston-Guy was released and heads back to court later this month.
A New Mexico police officer stripped of his badge and put behind bars is now facing a federal lawsuit for what he's accused of doing to a DWI suspect when he was supposed to be taking her to jail. KRQE investigative reporter Gabrielle Burkhart shows you the latest development in the case against Leon Martin.
You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in court of law.
From cop to accused criminal. Former Isleta police officer Leon Martin is also facing a federal lawsuit, all stemming from what he's accused of doing with a DWI suspect he'd met on a prior call and friended on Facebook.
An inmate at the Valencia County Detention Center, New Mexico.
In a November 2021 phone call to her father from jail,
Can you hear me? Yeah, hi, Dad. Hi.
A 21-year-old woman who'd just been in a car crash and booked for DWI reveals what she says just happened to her at the hands of her arresting officer, then Isleta police officer Leon Martin.
You know the cop who arrested me? He was the one that hit me up on Facebook, Dad. And he told me not to say anything because I hadn't showered. And whenever I get out tomorrow, I want to go straight to the hospital.
So he took you somewhere and did stuff with you?
This phone call is the first record of her sharing her story. She says Martin drove her to a remote area in Albuquerque, pulled over, and asked her to go to the driver's side, where she says she was raped.
Because they teach you fight or flight, but if it's an officer, you get charged if you fight and you get charged if you run. He even said that he could change the time on the paperwork.
She reported the rape, and state police officers arrested Martin.
Where am I going to be going?
MDC.
Martin was booked into the Metropolitan Detention Center in November of 2021, charged with 2 counts of rape, false imprisonment, demanding or receiving a bribe, and violation of ethical principles of public service, all felonies.
To be honest, I do regret it. It did escalate, I'm not gonna lie. I could have prevented it. I should have prevented it, but they escalated too far to what I wanted it to.
With his criminal case still pending, the woman is now suing Martin and the state of New Mexico for negligence, arguing the state, which trains officers for local departments and certifies them, negligently failed to properly train and supervise Martin. The lawsuit has reached federal court.
You could see us when I left. There's an hour and a half of time missing before I got back to the jail desk.
At the heart of her case is evidence that Martin drove her to a secluded road near MDC instead of straight to booking in Valencia County. The lawsuit against him states Martin turned off his radio and location data so that his whereabouts were undetected. In a recorded interview with state police investigators, Martin tried telling them he'd just gotten turned around.
I mean, you're going west when you should be going south. You know, that's a huge difference. Is that what happened? You just took her up there because you knew it was a secluded spot?
No. Yeah, but no.
You obviously were wanting to have sex with her. If you didn't want to have sex with her, you wouldn't have had sex with her, right?
Well, she said that she did want to talk, and that's when it did escalate.
In that phone call from jail, the woman's father encouraged her to speak up right there and then.
I do not trust that in any shape, way, or form. In any way do I trust the police. I do not trust them.
Since his arrest, a judge agreed to keep Martin in jail pending trial, when a jury will decide his fate for the next 24 years. Gabrielle Burkhart, KRQE Investigates.
Martin's criminal trial is set for June 12th. His attorney tells us, quote, "We're looking forward to exonerating him at trial." Meanwhile, the federal lawsuit against him is still making its way through the court system.
Well, a state corrections officer is sharing in her own words what she says was the worst night of her life, being sexually assaulted and held at gunpoint for hours by a convicted killer and rapist inside her workplace.
She's now suing the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation. We want to warn you, some of the details may be difficult to hear. KCRA 3's Michelle Bandura explains what happened.
The lawsuit against the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation outlines the ordeal experienced by Correctional Officer Katie Jackson.
My life, along with my children, my family, and my fellow correctional officers, was threatened with death if I did not cooperate.
The mother of three thought she was going to be killed on the job January 20th, 2024, while working the evening shift at Sierra Conservation Center.
There were a lot of failed security measures within that institution that night, a lot of them. And it's heartbreaking because it could have easily been prevented, and it wasn't.
The facility houses low and medium security inmates, many who train for the firefighter program. Violent offenders are not supposed to stay there. Jackson's lawyers say Robert Lawrence Ransom Jr. should have never been transferred to Jamestown because of his violent background as a killer and rapist.
The California model failed. That's why we're here. It failed in a horrific manner.
The lawsuit states during the evening count, all inmates were accounted for and said to be secured in their cells. In reality, the document says Ransom was concealed within a laundry cart, and officers inexcusably failed to detect Ransom, declaring the cart clear. Lawyers called this a dereliction of duty. Jackson says, learning the officer's routines, Ransom disguised himself as an officer, and she mistakenly let him into the control booth.
What ensued after an inmate gained access to a highly restricted area was 4 hours of the most unimaginable horrors. I was strangled, I was held hostage at gunpoint, and I was raped multiple times.
Jackson says she convinced Ransom she would bring in drugs and weapons and convinced him to return to his cell. She says supervisors questioned her for 6 hours before going to the hospital, treating her as a suspect and not a victim. But she hopes the lawsuit will change the culture behind bars.
You are undermined constantly at every corner, and the inmates essentially have more rights and more power than you do as correctional officers.
In Sacramento, Michelle Bandura, KCRA 3 News.
The Tuolumne County attorney also filed 11 felonies against Ransom. He is already serving a life sentence with parole for the Los Angeles County crimes. He's expected in court next month. The CDCR would not comment on the lawsuit.
Yes, just a few hours ago, we heard from Katie Jackson, who is a female correction officer, and she has filed a lawsuit against the CDCR after saying that she was held hostage by an inmate where she endured physical and emotional trauma, in the lawsuit blaming the department for negligence.
This is where it went from ordinary to the worst night of my life.
On January 20th, 2024, Katie Jackson went to work as a correction officer at CDCR Sierra Conservation Center in Jamestown when she said she found herself held hostage at gunpoint by inmate Robert Lawrence Ransom Jr., an individual incarcerated for multiple violent murders.
I was strangled, I was held hostage at gunpoint, and I was raped multiple times. I was alone for 4 hours with an assault rifle pointed at me with no help, no hope of rescue, and my partners having no idea what was going on.
Jackson alleges that during the 4-hour period, Ransom was threatening her with harm to her family and fellow correction officers if she didn't agree to smuggle drugs and cell phones for him.
Every decision I made would determine my fate and the lives of everyone around me.
Jackson's attorney claimed that the CDCR failed to train and inform staff about the dangerous inmate Ransom after his transfer to a lower security facility, neglecting to provide critical information about his status.
And he would kill women and children and burn their bodies and ended up in prison, classified as a level 4 inmate. Now, how does a level 4 inmate end up at Sierra Conservation Center, which is a lower security institution? How does that happen? How does he fall through the cracks?
Jackson's attorneys are claiming that the California model failed, a reform initiative aimed at improving the prison system in California by implementing best practices.
And the staff were not trained as to how to deal with him. They didn't even know he was among their midst. It is level upon level upon level. Some of the most basic rudimentary safety measures were ignored or not maintained in the institution.
Jackson's attorney said the location where she was allegedly held should have been monitored by staff, which never happened.
This should have never happened. And unfortunately, Katie Jackson's life has been altered forever.
Jackson said she was released by the inmate after verbally agreeing to work with him. After informing the facility of what had happened, she said she was then questioned and denied medical care by CDCR facility staff for 6 hours. We reached out to the CDCR for comment regarding the lawsuit. They responded by saying the CDCR cannot comment on pending litigation. However, CDCR's top priority is the safety and well-being of our staff and those who reside in our institutions. When incidents occur within a facility, CDCR conducts internal investigations and refers matters to the local district attorney as appropriate.
Hello y'all, welcome to Bamm Bamm Raw TV. I'm Bamm Bamm, aka the 411 Giant. Hey, hit that like button. I want y'all to subscribe. I want you to hit that bell icon so you know when my next video come out. Alright. I appreciate the questions y'all be sending to me. I appreciate the things that y'all be asking about. I understand that jail is unnatural. So naturally you wouldn't know how to respond to a situation, or you wouldn't feel comfortable in that situation. Unfortunately, like I say, I've been going to jail since I was 15 years old, from juvenile life to the state joint, and like almost 28 years in the Fed going on. So I mean, unfortunately, the unnatural life of jail had became natural to me, and so I could circumvent it a lot better than a lot of others. Now, a person going into that environment, he don't know, he may not be, ain't got to be scared, ain't got that. He can just be ignorant of the games that's being played, and he don't know how to respond to it. A wrong response to a situation can cause you a whole lot more trouble down the line. I know people say, well, I don't want to get in no trouble. Okay. If tactically this 10 ounces of trouble going to stop you from a pound of trouble later on. And that's why you got to think about it. You have to deal with it, thinking about preservation for the future. Now, as in one scenario, one of my people asked me about, one of my YouTube fam asked me about, how do you respond to something like that? Guy come put something on your bed. You looking at this dude, whether he got muscles, whether he got a knife, whatever he got, you're going to have to respond to that. I'm 4'11", been shorter than that before. I ain't never been taller than that, but I've been shorter than that before. And wherever I went, I was willing to make that stand when it was time to make that stand. Don't play with me about certain things. And don't allow yourself to be played with by certain things. So don't. Dude come there, they got this whole thing they say. I hear dudes tell the stories and they did this here. Dude come put a honey bun on your bed, what you supposed to do? Me, personally, I think if a dude, I don't care if he big as King Kong or whatever, if he put a honey bun on Bamm Bamm bed, I'm gonna look at it. If you look at it and be like, who put this on my bed? Get this out of my bed. You ain't did nothing but made a target for yourself. You done showed fear. And that's what they feed on. You done showed fear. And once you show that fear, that's when they gonna prey on you. They said, oh, I didn't get him that time, but if I keep at him, I see that he don't want no trouble. And that's showing fear. Not that you don't want no trouble because you scared. You may not want no trouble because you want to go home. You may not want no trouble because you got something to do next week. But the fact is, they're going to see you don't want no trouble. And in jail, that becomes a weakness. So what I would do, Bamm Bamm, and y'all ask me how to respond to that situation, I can tell you how I would respond to it. I would take that honey bun, I would open it up, I would eat it, take my time, eat it, and all the time I'm eating it, I'm thinking about how am I going to punish this dude. I am going to approach this dude. I don't care if I have to stick him in his eye with my finger. I don't care if I have to bite him. I don't care what I got to do. I'm finna go over there and try to bring some pain in that dude's life. If he got a knife, that knife gonna belong to us. Cause when he pull that knife out, I'm gonna try to take it, and if I get it from him, I'm gonna work him. I'm gonna work him till I can't work him no more. But like I say, can't go in there over there. Can't be scared because what you do this one time here can affect you your whole bed. This story is gonna follow you. You eat that honey bun, I'm gonna eat that honey bun. When I get through eating it, if I got a knife at that time, I'm taking the knife with me. If I ain't got no knife, I'm going with my hands. Or I find me get my lock, put my lock in my hand. But whatever it is, I'm gonna walk over to the dude who put the honey bun. That was your honey bun? If he sit there and say, yeah, I put that there, bam. I'm gonna hit him right in his mouth. I'm gonna hit him in his face, or I'm gonna stab him, whatever. I'm gonna go on, and whatever happened from that, I'm gonna be in blind rage because this dude had disrespected me beyond forgiveness at this time. So me and this, we're gonna go at it. We're gonna be going at it, and we'll keep going at it. And when I get through, win or lose. Win or lose. When I get through, the people gonna be looking, and he gonna remember that. He gonna remember. He wants something easy. I've been doing time all my life. Dudes who play that game want something easy. If you fall for it, it's a win. You know what I'm saying? Like the old penitentiary. I remember the movie Penitentiary. When the dude got the cigarette behind his ear playing crazy and going on. It's the same game. It's just a different date. Same game, just a different date. Trying to intimidate you into falling for it. And if you serious about it, I know you want to go home. I know you like maybe one other thing. But the way you start is going to be very important. The way you start your bid. Because if you start your bid on a weak side, when you do move on and you do start doing stuff, you won't get no credit for it. People say, oh man, I remember when you let that dude put the honey bun on his bed and he was scared and going on. You can stab 20 people after this. They gonna remember when you was at your weakest. So the first thing you do, you got to stand up for yourself at all costs, willing to put it on the line that nobody disrespect you no more. And that's my response to it. And I thank you for the question. There's a couple of more that I'm gonna answer on some other videos. But that's my response to it. And I think that should be the proper. You ask me what should be the proper response. That's what I think should be the proper response to that action. You play with me like that, there we gonna dance. Simple as that. We gonna dance with knives or we gonna dance with our hand, but we got to dance one way or the other. Simple as that. You know. And I said thank you again. All right. Hit that like button, subscribe, hit that bell icon so you know when my next video come out. Peace. New York City.
Good evening. We wanted to announce the conviction of Matthew Moore. Mr. Moore entered a guilty plea on this morning after 3 days of trial. Mr. Moore had been charged with rape, aggravated sodomy, false imprisonment, impersonating an officer, aggravated sexual battery, and aggravated assault in cases involving 2 Fulton County women who were brutally raped in Sandy Springs. One of the incidents occurred in 2010. Mr. Moore identified himself as a police officer. He flashed a badge and a firearm and pepper spray. And he proceeded to rape a woman at a hotel in Sandy Springs. The victim called 911 and where she was taken to a hospital and a sexual assault exam was performed. And part of the evidence that was collected in that case was a napkin. That took place in 2010. Some 7 years later, Moore, he contacted another woman through an advertisement, and once they met at the Hawthorne Suites in Sandy Springs, again, Moore brandished a knife and a firearm, which he pointed at the victim, and then he proceeded to remove the victim's clothing, and he then tied her up, and he positioned his telephone so that he could record what he was doing at that time. And he proceeded to brutally rape her for more than about 40 minutes. Once he finished this assault, he then attempted to use an object to continue his rape upon this victim. She then managed to escape, ran out into a hallway where she was able to let 3 other gentlemen know that she was being assaulted. Mr. Moore then managed to retrieve his telephone, and he was able to leave Fulton County and Sandy Springs at that time. So in 2017, some year and a half later, we received, and along with the Sandy Springs police, a DNA hit. And the DNA hit not only involved the 2 women from Sandy Springs, but it also involved in 2008 in Homewood, Alabama, another incident that occurred in Cobb County in 2010, as well as the 2010 and the 2017 incidents that took place in Fulton County. One of the things that was found in the 2010 incident was a pair of handcuffs, and the pair of handcuffs were handcuffs from the institution where Moore worked. And as it turns out, he was employed as a correctional officer in Alabama. At the time that he was arrested, the police were able to find a number of items in his possession, which included the zip ties that were used to tie the victims, pantyhose, computers, cell phones, and sex toys. And one of the things that Moore had in his possession was the same videotape that he had made in Fulton County in 2017, and he still had it in his possession. I want to thank the Fulton Sandy Springs Police Department, who really did an outstanding job of putting this case together. It's without them, there's no doubt that Mr. Moore would have continued to rape women apparently all over the Southeast. And one of the reasons that we are here to make this announcement is that we believe that in the Fulton County area and that in Sandy Springs, that there are probably many other women that Mr. Moore might have assaulted. And if those women are listening to this broadcast, we would certainly ask them to contact the DA's office or to contact the Sandy Springs Police Department, because what we have found is that the victims that we have interviewed and talked to in the process of this trial, they have been greatly disturbed by what Mr. Moore has done. And we believe that those women probably need some extensive psychological treatment, and that is one of the reasons that we would like for them to come forward.
All right, and tonight we're learning new details of another case of rape inside the troubled Cuyahoga County Jail.
And for the second time in 10 days, it involves accusations that a corrections officer forced an inmate into sex. 5 on Your Side investigator Scott Knoll has more on what he has uncovered.
That now former jailer was indicted by a grand jury here this week for sexual assault investigators say happened back in March 2019. 27-year-old Jalen Howard facing 2 counts of rape, 2 counts of kidnapping, 2 counts of sexual battery, gross sexual imposition, and public indecency. Investigators say Howard, while working as a Cuyahoga County corrections officer, forced an inmate, identified in court documents only as John Doe, into sexual contact. The Sheriff's Department confirms Howard was hired to work in the jail in September 2017, then resigned in August 2019. The same month, investigators began looking into allegations against him. It's not clear why Howard wasn't charged sooner. A county spokesperson said investigators spent the last few months conducting interviews, then turned the case over to the prosecutor this month. Howard's charges come a little over a week after another corrections officer, Andre Boxa, was arrested and charged with sexually assaulting 3 inmates inside the jail earlier this year. We're told investigators do not think the 2 cases are connected. Howard is scheduled to be arraigned on the charges early next month. In Cleveland, I'm 5 on Your Side investigator Scott Knoll.
And new information now about another Cuyahoga County corrections officer facing charges. The 5 on Your Side investigators have now learned jailer Rion Cook has been charged with misdemeanor assault after an incident in the jail's booking area. The 47-year-old is accused of hitting a handcuffed inmate in the face. Cook is on paid administrative leave tonight.
Criminal charges are now filed against a former corrections officer accused of sexually assaulting 2 inmates inside a state prison. News 4's Tanner DeLeon tells us how investigators say they uncovered all of it. Tanner.
An inmate came forward with video of the alleged rape. The Department of Corrections then firing the officer immediately after. A short time later, another inmate claiming to be a rape victim came forward. Deshaun Dixon, a former officer at the Mabel Bassett Correctional Center, now finds himself locked up, charged with allegedly raping 2 inmates. According to court documents, in March, Dixon was arrested and fired after the Department of Corrections received a video from another inmate showing what looked like Dixon having sex with an inmate. The DOC telling me in a statement, quote, "The agency was already investigating the inmate's accusations well before receiving the cell phone footage. Having the video certainly assisted our agents in expediting the officer's arrest and termination." Court documents go on to say investigators interviewed the victim after seeing the video to make sure it was Dixon. The victim telling investigators Dixon would bring her contraband in exchange for sex. Shortly after his arrest in March, another inmate came forward claiming they were also a victim. An investigation now leading to more possible charges against Dixon after being served a warrant for his arrest last month. The DOC also saying it is, quote, "committed to zero tolerance standard towards all forms of sexual abuse and sexual harassment between employees and offenders. Inmate safety and security are a top priority, and all accusations are treated with the same respect and urgency." Dixon has been charged with second-degree rape on the first victim and has a court hearing in January for the second victim for first-degree rape charges. He currently sits in the Pottawatomie County Jail.
A shocking charge that first surfaced in a civil lawsuit filed by a state prison inmate is now a criminal case. A Valencia County grand jury has indicted guard captain Kenneth Carejo on 4 counts of rape for repeatedly assaulting a Los Lunas prison inmate named Kenneth Morgan over a period of 5 months last year. Morgan was able to collect a DNA sample during one of the attacks, kept it, hid it, and was finally able to turn it over to the FBI. If he's convicted, Carejo, who is now retired, could face up to 48 years in prison. Morgan's civil lawsuit against Corrections is continuing.
Tell you what, after only 3 days until a trial, an Alabama corrections officer accused of raping 2 women was also cut short after he pleaded guilty to those crimes. Both incidents taking place in Sandy Springs hotels in 2015-2017. The attacks included tying up the women and sexually assaulting them for more than 40 minutes. Video evidence of one attack and testimony from one victim proved to be enough to get Moore to cut his trial short.
The victim of this assault testified, and immediately after this video was played, Moore decided to enter a guilty plea.
Prosecutors say that Moore is linked to multiple assaults in Alabama and Florida. The judge sentenced him to life, with 30 of those years to be served in prison. The rest will be served on probation.